Hello, everyone. This is Memphis Mark coming to you from Mullet Manor, and we're going to do the review for Collision on 8-5 coming out of Greenville. And of course, I've got Maintenance Maverick with me today. And Mav, we got the Godna. The Godna's in the house. Michael Gross is with us today, fortunately, and Rocky T will join us hopefully next week. But how are you guys doing tonight?
Personally, I'm doing fantastic, minus some weather issues here in Louisville. But what's new? It seems like the gods are against us every time we record. However, I'm really excited to delve into Collision tonight and talk about some of the action that we saw and some of the storylines that it's going towards and what we feel ultimately could be a conclusion building up to the massive show in Wembley. I think I know somebody who might be there for that show, but I don't know. What about you, Mav? How you doing, buddy?
Doing all right out here in the UK. Once again, still UK weather. Can't really predict it or anything. Seems to be bipolar all the time. But hey, it is what it is. Tonight's episode was pretty good. It was pretty enjoyable. And yeah, just to let you guys know, I will be at All In. So I will be doing the review on that when the time comes. But yeah, let's just jump right into tonight's show with the cold open. Mark, you want to start us off?
Man, the code openings that started us off during the night. I really like the fact that they, of course, I like the whole format of it, but the Punk doing the Pretenders, he's going to separate the Pretenders from the Contenders. So I'm not sure who he stole it from, but I'm sure it's somebody. But anyway,
Exactly.
yeah, I liked it. I liked it. What'd you think, Mike?
Well, the whole purpose of a cold opening is to hype your viewers and to try to get you a little bit amped because if you can't really always announce everybody who's going to be on the card in every match, but if you can announce some people who are proven draws like the Acclaim, proven draws like CM Punk's FTR, it kind of gets you excited because you know they're going to be there this week. There's no guesswork, but also the fact that they're kind of announcing their match. We're coming for so and so. We're going to challenge for this. So you know you're going to get some action and you're going to have some top tier talent wrestling on the card. So I think that's really good. I also like the fact that it puts a spotlight on both tag team and trios wrestling. And it's a way of saying, okay, we've got CM Punk on the show, but we also have FTR on the show. We also have the Acclaimed on the show. And it's showing you that tag teams can be rated and seen in the same light and in the same caliber as main event singles talent. And that's one thing that Collision has done very well is the fact that they spotlight every division as far as trios, tag teams, and obviously singles. It's not just a singles situation. And unlike the competition over in Stamford, your tag teams aren't solely built of singles wrestlers waiting to split up and see who's going to sink and who's going to swim. You actually have proven tag teams and tag teams that really feel that they should stick together and stay as a team so you can get behind it. It's not just about selling merch. It's more about an actual team and actually making an imprint in wrestling history, as opposed to just waiting for the other shoe to drop and how you're going to split it up and having a built-in feud that's not going to go anywhere when you have one star and one person who's just going to be dropped in the well.
There we go. Wow. That explains.
Sorry.
Oh,
That's the way I roll, man. What about you, Matt? How are you on cold opens?
So I really enjoy these cold opens. It gives a little bit of hype to the matches, almost makes them seem a little bit more personal. Like there is a rivalry to them almost to an extent. And you're seeing these guys, they actually want to go at each other, feels like to an extent. I also really enjoy because growing up watching SmackDown and Raw, I remember so often it was like just kind of guesswork unless you maybe knew the main event that was going to happen every week because, they'd announce that or whoever the champion was. It was just normal to figure that out. But it's kind of nice just to see in the beginning, they kind of give you an idea of like, okay, these are some of the matches that are going to happen tonight. Takes the guesswork out of it. And I can kind of enjoy myself just knowing I'm going to be in for a treat with whatever and really just look forward to it and stay interested knowing what's about to happen next. But yeah, so going into the first match, it was Brian Cage and Big Bill versus FTR. Mark, you want to start us off on that?
yeah. I'll start it off with the Little Road Warriors going against FTR, and I really liked the reference or the the homage to Loverboy Dennis Condrey. And, I knew him originally as Dennis Condrey and Phil Hickerson before the Midnight Express run. So I like that. The match was good. Cage had some good moves. I thought, Big Bill's coming out of his shell. I mean, he is what he is, but he's coming out of his shell. He's working a little bit. The only thing that kind of threw me off was Mom laughing and smiling while her son's getting the tar whipped out of her. And, that was a little odd. I didn't like that the mic caught FTR a couple times preparing. I hate it when they get that good of audio on it. But overall, good match. Even like the stick time afterwards. So, what'd you think, Mav?
All right, so did anybody notice that Brian Cage's ring attire was somewhat of a tribute to Sting, if you were looking?
I did not until you brought it up right now.
Very reminiscent. Definitely roll with it, bro.
But yeah, so looking, he had the face paint. He had, I believe there's a scorpion on his pant leg. Kind of nice to see a tribute out to somebody from the past like that. Well, I guess present as well, because Sting still hasn't gone away, and it's been enjoyable seeing him around in AEW. I saw Cash going out and hugging his mom. It was kind of a nice moment just to see, like, okay, he's still a person, he's still human. And then, yeah, once again, playing into her nonstop smiling, even when he's getting beat up right in front of her, and then smiling as she's slapping Big Bill. It's like, really? You can't even look a little bit aggressive or angry or anything for this moment that you're on TV? But yeah, I think Big Bill and Brian Cage, they played pretty good bully style wrestling in this. They were absolute skyscrapers during it, and it looked good. But the match's story, from what I could tell throughout this one, was just because you're bigger and more dominant doesn't mean you'll win necessarily. Champions will find technical ways to overcome you still, and as FTR does, they still put on a pretty good match with them. Some of the moves that Brian Cage was putting on, man, for his size, he is agile and he can really move, jumping over the ropes and everything, doing suicide dives. That's not something you see usually from somebody as big as him. Gardner, what do you think, man?
Well, I'm very familiar with Brian Cage's work when he was in Lucha Underground. So if people didn't ever see that, if you have a chance to, look up old episodes on YouTube or whatever streaming service that might have it, you can find that he is an extremely agile human being, especially for his size. I mean, he's a bit more squat. What they announced him at, like 270, 280 tonight, but I guarantee if he's 6 foot, that might be with lifts. I'm thinking the guy's 5'10", and nothing against him. I think that's why he keeps the mohawk spike to look, shades to Adrian Street. He used to put in the pigtails. We miss you, Adrian. He used to put in the pigtails to make himself look taller, so that way he would, have the appearance of being 6 foot tall. And I think that's part of what Brian Cage is doing to kind of create the illusion that he's taller than he really is. With that mohawk, though, I see a lot of Road Warrior Hawk, especially with the long pants. Then I see the Scorpion on one side, and I'm thinking, okay, that's obviously an homage to Sting. The makeup looked half Sting, half Road Warrior Animal, not Hawk. And it was just funny just to see what he was doing. And I swear at one point they were going for a doomsday device, but that's kind of when things got a little bit botchy on Big Bill's part. As far as Big Bill goes with this one, he's still very green for a 7 foot man. I think that the time when he left WWE and he was in Impact, I think it would have behooved him to stay in Impact probably another couple of years just to hone his craft a little bit more. I don't see him in the same light as a Sid Vicious or a Mark Callis or Dan Spivey. Although he's trying to have that skyscraper persona, he's still a bit thin for that, and his moves are still a little rickety. Well, I guess it kind of fits in Sid's category then.
Ooh.
Hey, I'm just calling it the way I see it. Sid wasn't terrible, but Sid could kind of forget his spots sometimes, and Big Bill had not only the spot where Cage was going to the top of the ropes, but also when he did the double clothesline, kind of botched that one. So he was Big Bocce Bill tonight. Cash's mom smiling. Come on. Compared to Cash's mom, Big Bill was a Shakespearean thespian, okay? Performing at the O2 Arena, both Midsummer Night's Dream. King, he was doing everything that Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, King Lear. Come on, I mean that's how good he was compared to that goofy smile on her face and that weak slap. But the best part of that whole moment, and you got to tell me you saw it, was the guy that stands up with the sign behind her that says "COK." Now I'm not sure if you saw it, but I think I know and got the message of what he was trying to convey there. I think it was a filthy word on national television. I'm just
No.
throwing that out there. And then the last thing from this match was when they do picture in picture, if Big Bill is going to become somebody and he wants to emulate that skyscraper, skyscrapers meet road warriors, and Prince Nan being the manager and trying to push it, you can't be doing those Enzo dances that he was doing outside the ring when they're doing picture in picture. All you're doing is retreading to your past gimmick, which did you no favors whatsoever. So, doing those dances, you got to leave that in the past. And especially that's going to remind people of Enzo Amore, which is a no-no because nobody wants to see him on their television sets. No one wants to see him on AEW. No one wants to see him because he sucks up charisma and talent wherever he goes and leaves a foul stench behind. So you got to wash yourself. You got to cleanse. You have to cleanse your skin down to the pores, get the best scrub you can, exfoliate. I do it every day. And get that mindset of whatever you did in the past as far away from you so you can develop this new character of who Big Bill really is. You need to evolve the character a little bit more. Obviously, you're not wearing wrestling attire. You're wearing jeans. You want to go into that skyscraper gimmick. Fine. If that's what you're going to do, polish your power moves a little bit more. Don't forget your spots. And for God's sakes, leave that goofy Enzo dance behind. And then we can see some evolution of a character.
Oh, you hold it in so well, Michael. Oh, okay, guys. Let's fire him up in another angle. Well, of course, after the match, FTR does the little stick work, and they're saying that they want the Young Bucks. I mean, what do you think about this? Because they're trying to sell some seats in Wimbledon Stadium. So, what do you think?
I mean, Mav, you should take this one because you're going to be there. Does it make you more apt to go to the show, or what do you think? I mean, how excited are you for this match?
Yeah, and
I'm extremely excited. They kept announcing that they've sold 80,000 seats, which Wembley, I believe, is able to seat 90,000 people. I'm extremely excited to see Young Bucks versus FTR. It's not quite the match that I would have absolutely been going nuts over because I honestly am a Lucha Bros fan. That's who I would have wanted to put against them. I would love to see a match between those two at a pay-per-view event live, but you know what? Young Bucks is just as good in my opinion. I'm extremely excited to see it. This is probably going to be the biggest event AEW has for a while.
Wouldn't it? That now, Mav, I believe other than WWE. Now, Michael, you tell me if I'm wrong. That would be the biggest crowd. I can't remember one. I everything WWE or WWF. I mean, can you think of anything? I mean, that would be pretty big.
I don't remember anything that big. I know Tokyo drew some shows. In Mexico, they had what they called off the book shows where they were not actual recorded pay-per-views, but they were super shows. I heard they were rumored to have up to 55, 60,000 people. So that's big. I mean, for wherever you go. And those are rodeo stadiums down in Mexico and in Japan. I know that they did, 25, 30,000 people at the Tokyo Egg Dome. That was a big sellout. So I can't think of anything that's ever really been that big. Maybe the Saudi shows, but that's WWE. So I can't think of anything that's ever come close to, those attendance records. I'm kind of at the loss on that one.
Well,
you guys are forgetting about Collision in Korea, 1995, I believe. WCW and NJPW had an event. I believe it was a 2-day event, and I believe the second day had 195K disputed, but still, that's what the numbers show if you look it up.
Oh, and you looked it up though, because I can't remember that off the top of my head. I definitely not doubting you, but I just wow.
How the how the hell do you fit 195K into a stadium? I mean, growing
Was
up
that
in Ohio, I know Ohio State can fit in the horseshoe probably 170, and I think Michigan, the black hole, can fit 180,000. And they keep reconstructing the stadium, so one will have 10,000 more than the other until the thing finally implodes, one or the other. But that's 190,000 people.
man? That's yeah. The American arenas are at 100,000. 107, 108. So that's Wait, was it a week long event? Was it something like something like that, or do you know?
I believe it was a 2-day event. There was a special on Dark Side of the Ring about it, how all the wrestlers were treated and everything. Apparently, it was kind of poor in some ways, and a lot of them talked about like trying to make phone calls back to the States was a real hassle and things like that. And yeah,
Uh,
I'm not too updated on the event. I just remember seeing that episode and I looked up a little bit about it after hearing them keep saying, yeah, 80,000 people, and just thinking about like, wonder what the biggest event was. And I guess that's the record.
yeah, it's
You know that's got to be stuck in Vince McMahon's cross so bad. I know I can beat it. I know I can beat it. I'll just I'll add 5 more seats in the lawn, and we'll count the people who are tailgating. No, Vince, just let it go, bro. Just twist the mustache, okay?
yeah. Well, guys, they go. They have some good promos in between, and Punk's, speaking about his match with Starks, of course, and then Juice and the Guns and all that. But they go into the second match. Is the ladies? It's a TBS title match, and it's Mercedes Martinez. I did not ask for help from my Spanish announcer. Uh, Going against Chris Stratliner. So, I mean, good match to me. The only thing I saw was some couple weak kicks on Mercedes' side, but other than that, kind of a good match. I mean, yeah, some of the strikes, maybe the match was a little too long, but we'll try Maverick out. Maverick, what'd you think of it?
All right, so I'll be honest. This is the second match I've ever seen of Mercedes Martinez. So far, I don't think I'm a fan. Her style feels very slow. The German suplex from the top turnbuckle, that was pretty
Yeah,
interesting to see.
I like.
I've not seen it, especially in a women's match before. So that was a good highlight for me. Honestly, I feel like Mercedes Martinez has a little bit more to prove to me before I become somewhat of a fan, but she's slowly growing, I feel like. Statlander came in with great energy, kind of enjoy seeing her perform as is. And the ending, the roll up into that bridge maneuver, that's not something I've ever seen, but I think that just goes in with Chris Statlander's style, and I really enjoyed that. Michael, what do you think?
My nitpicks were you were talking about like some sloppy kick work from Martinez. She also, when she was doing those elbow strikes to the back of Statlander's neck, those looked pretty weak. You could tell that the fist wasn't fully clenched. They were going kind of slower than they should have. And I know she was trying to protect her and not actually strike her neck, but maybe move it back and try to land across the shoulders a little bit more to have a little bit more impact. Try to hide it a little bit, but it had a slow start. I think that it was a good payoff in the end, especially like you're talking about the German from the top, the specialized roll up in the end. I mean, things looked really. It's like I don't want to say that they were lost in the beginning of the match. I think it was just kind of like one of these. Okay, we might have forgot one spot. Well, forgetting one spot, you have to rearrange everything on the fly, and I think that's kind of what happened. And they covered for it really well. And honestly, Martinez could use a little bit more work, but I don't think she's bad. And I think in a year she'll develop into a more solid player. Statlander obviously has come into her own. I just think that she's one that I would love to see evolve to have an NXT experience, kind of like Banks and Charlotte and everybody else. I think that the sky's the limit for Statlander. I just think that she doesn't exactly have marquee dance partners, and this is nothing against Martinez. I just think that if she had a premium dance partner, that she'd have a more premium match. And like I said, Martinez will get to the point where I think that they can carry each other through a more solid match. But for what it was, it stood on its own 2 feet. My interesting part is they pan to the audience. Once again, we see Cash's mom with that Cheshire smile on her face, like she just got a lollipop for Christmas or something. And then behind her, if you pay attention, all of a sudden that guy creeps up that sign that says "See okay," and I was like, "The pervert is back! The pervert is back!" Um, and of course, we hey, this is why I'm on the show, folks. And so then Diamante comes out. First of all, never trust a wrestler who was named after a failed Mitsubishi. Okay, and that's what she attacks Statlander on the mat. They have a little double beatdown until what was it? Willow Nightingale came out with her saunter to the ring. It was a weird run to the ring. It was like a half jog, half run, like, and then a little slow down, and then speed up right before she pops in the ring. Maybe it was just the angle I was watching it from, but so we evened it, which sets up a tag team match for next week, which obviously means that we're going to have an interesting cold open promo with both of them. So let's kind of see where it goes, and hopefully Martinez in a tag team match will flourish a little bit more. So let's see where this goes. I'm not going to write the girl off just yet. I think that she definitely has potential down the road because they were covering for spots. She actually cares about what she's doing in the ring. It's more than watching somebody, like Nia Jackson just blatantly hurts people or just doesn't have the regard to figure out how to protect somebody. So I'd rather see somebody protect someone and have a bit of a slow move here and there than somebody cripple somebody in the ring. So I'm going to give her, an extended time to shine, so to speak. Let's see what happens with her.
Look, I don't know how long it would take somebody to get a failed Mitsubishi car reference into a a podcast, but you have done it, my friend. So I commend you on that.
Thank you very much, Mark. This is why we've been friends for 20 plus years. By the way, folks, I just want to say, if I could take the lead for a second, that after this match, we go into yet another promo, and this one's with Tony Storm. First of all, Collision, I think, should be Collision, presented by An Evening with Tony Schiavone. Because I don't know anybody who gets as much camera time as Tony on these shows. What was it, 4 or 5 interviews tonight? And he's looking good. He's looking like Schiavone, baby. This interview had
They
the
really
striking. Go ahead. I mean, I just noticed that Tony Schiavone, one, he had everybody's hands in his face with Bullet Club and the guns. Now he's interviewing Tony Storm, so we had the Tony connection, and she was straight up looking like I Love Lucy, like waking up in the middle of the night because she had a knock on the door from Fred downstairs, and they can't find the other neighbors, and we got some splaining to do. So how did you guys feel about Tony Storm's razzle dazzle housewife look?
the curlers.
Yes.
Being an older gentleman, I've stepped on and moved curlers most of my life. Also, having 4 daughters, it's just a matter of fact. I did like the drama she tried to portray. I think she did a pretty good job. But I'm just loving the bashing Tony. He's bashed with a cardboard cutout. So, if you're getting ridiculed by people, you can watch reactions or move their fingers, but a cardboard finger coming at your nose is a little, to me, maybe I'm just weird.
Before you throw this to Mav on this one, I just also have to say that like it's the fact that when she's walking away, she tells Tony to shut up, and he goes to talk again. She says, "Shut up" one more time. Tony is taking Schiavone, that is taking so much abuse. And do you remember when AEW first kicked off and Britt Baker used to abuse him?
Yes.
What is this going to build up to? Like Tony Schiavone snaps and wrestles his one match in his life or something? Like, I got to know why the Tony abuse. I think it's kind of funny because there is some underlying reason that they're doing this, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Like but he has so much airtime and so much more camera time than 75% of the wrestlers across all shows. And I'm loving it because there's something that's going to pay off. It's going to be years from now. We're going to forget about it. And it's going to be like Tony snaps and like chokes out somebody. And I'm going to wait for it and I'm going to love it. But Mav, what'd you think of about this whole segment and Tony Storm, the housewife?
All right, so before I get into the segment itself, I just want to throw out some possible opponents for Tony Schiavone. Can you imagine if it was somebody like Samoa Joe who he would choke out or something, just how ridiculous it would look, but how great it would just be for a few minutes just for us to watch that?
Apparently, they'll bring Ricky Steamboat back, and he'll just go off on him.
There you go.
Well, look, you mentioned Samoa Joe, and bam, we have a Samoa Joe match. And he's going against a first-timer, El Jabrono.
Serpentico.
Yeah, somebody take this. I've already screwed it up, so please, somebody help me.
All right, so just to backtrack real quick, because I didn't really go over my point for the whole Tony and Tony interview there. When I first saw Tony Storm for a second, I don't know what it was. I saw like the blonde hair and the curlers, and something in my head just kind of went back to like Marilyn Monroe's look for a second. I was like, and then it kind of snapped to me that it kind of does look like an old style housewife or something. And then during the interview, as she starts to abuse him, she starts asking Tony, "Am I not good enough for you?" And I start thinking, are these two flirting or something? Are we going to go into a storyline of Tony and Tony together? Are we going to have the Tonys as a mixed tag team? What is going to happen next? And then she just starts abusing him and goes off the camera, and yeah, the whole thing just kind of ended. But then we had it was about a 3-second squash match between Samoa Joe and Serpentico. It wasn't much of a match, really. It was, I think, maybe a slap and then straight into the Samoa Joe's submission move that he enjoys using. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. It's like 4 a.m. here. But yeah, so then it leads to Samoa Joe announcing that he wants CM Punk for the TV title. I'm interested to see this. If it is going to go on at All In, I am very happy because that's a feud that's been going on for 10 plus, 20 plus years now. More like 15 plus at this point. But yeah, I'm very excited to see if that is what is going to happen live for me. Captain, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm. But first of all, my take on the match, I watched Serpentico wrestle in Lucha Underground also. His garb is completely different from that. Well, not completely, but it's definitely different from where it used to be. So he has a different look, which is cool. But, you're going against Joe, you're cannon fodder. So, we like you right before we flush you. So that's basically what happened. So he circled the bowl and went down the drain. Unfortunately for him, he does have talent, but there isn't a division for somebody of his size right now, and he doesn't have that household name or that draw power to actually showcase what he can do. Sorry about your luck, buddy. They fed you to Joe. The interview, the scathing on Punk was beautiful. The double entendres he used were very nice, especially at the end when he called him a punk, talked about being a king, who's the real king. This was a match of device. It's all just to further it. Joe doesn't need to be out there wrestling even 5 minutes against Serpentico to get him to remind people that he is a human bulldozer and a wrecking machine, and he is the Samoan submission machine. You got to have him choking these people out in 5 minutes. We have to make sure that his credibility stays sustained and his credibility stays strong. So that way, when we see he versus Punk, we're going to see something that we really want to see, and we want to see the end and the conclusion of something that started a long time ago, and especially in front of 80,000 fans when they are used to wrestling in front of 800 fans in Ring of Honor. On their old pay-per-views. This is the crescendo. This is the match that they always deserved and they always wanted, and that, frankly, the wrestling fans who followed them as long as I have want to see. This is what they deserve, the big stage, the biggest stage that they could possibly put this match on in, and especially not being governed by the rules in Stanford, or not being governed by, well, you can't use this move because it's protected because it's somebody's finisher. We're actually going to see something that's going to be artistic. We're going to see a well thought out story in the ring and a well executed from a wrestling standpoint match in the ring. And I think it's if it doesn't steal the show, it's going to come pretty damn close. So I liked it, but And Mark, you covered the fact that, you basically blinked and you missed it. And the most beautiful part about this after the scathing promo is it led us into another intimate moment with Tony Schiavone.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And you've thrown me off totally.
I'm sorry.
And no, look, that is the great thing about having multiple co-hosts. I kind of lay everything out, and I'm trying to go through everything, and then of course I have great co-hosts that just go, no, wait a minute, and hold up, and then we'll move it this way. So that's great because it doesn't sound so formatted. But I will have to. We do go to a promo after this with. Can I get my Spanish announcer to give me a hand?
Yes.
Andrade el ídolo.
Yes, there we go. That's a from across the pond, folks. At 4 a.m. So that's pretty good. But yes, we have the mass promo, and then we have the Acclaimed kind of crying over the boots. So we'll throw both of those in at one time. Good, about a 4-minute spot in there. What do you think of the two little spots there? We'll go since I did have to use my Spanish announcer. We'll go to the Spanish announcer first. What'd you think, man?
All right, so while watching Andrade's promo, I'm not even sure if I'd really want to call it a promo. It felt more like a recap of just everything that happened real quick. Just some flashes real quick of all the matches, the mask being stolen, him recovering it back. And then I put down one note for that, and that note being, what if the House of Black, moving into this whole more supernatural sort of gimmick, what if they put some sort of quote-unquote curse on the mask? And somehow Andrade becomes more drawn to wearing the mask, maybe during matches, or maybe he becomes more drawn to the House of Black, maybe ends up joining them or something. I don't know. It just seemed like a quick idea that just came to my head. But next, going into the Acclaimed, giving thanks in their farewell to Billy Gunn, they seemed very genuine during this. And I even felt a little bit emotional, like, wow, they're watching this guy walk away. And even though they're saying the silliest phrase possible, throw up some scissors for me from the couch, that just seems so goofy. But, they seem so emotional at the same time. It's like, I don't know whether I should laugh or cry right now. Captain, what do you think?
I'm on the same page. First of all, they tried to do the best they could as far as first of all, they are very charismatic, but they're not quite the Shakespearean thespians that Big Bill is. No, let's get to it. Like, seriously, they were trying their best to cut a very serious promo. A little bit of crocodile tears. I figure when they panned over to Schiavone, one of them pulled a nose hair. Kind of get those tear ducts going. But they were doing their best to put over the situation, which I like. And they're trying to present a very serious crossroads in their career, and their concern for Billy Gunn. And so I think that what they're doing is the best they can with their acting abilities, and it's not terrible acting abilities. It's just it's they're still young guys. I guarantee you, if 2 years from now if they cut this promo, it would be top notch and primo. So it's not that it was bad; it's just development. And I think that Tony Schiavone loved this promo because it was the only one where he wasn't abused tonight. I think after they cut the cameras, they all reconvened with a great big 3-man hug. That's what happened. And I think that Tony will bring the scissors to them. He's going to snap from all the abuse, and the Acclaimed are going to be like, Tony, join us. And then he's just going to put on really super tight britches, almost Rick Rude tight, and that's a little too tight, and he's going to scissor everybody. That's where I'm going with this. Sorry, did I go off on a tangent again? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, man, we're going to get granddaddy ass from this theory.
Yes.
Daddy ass with his tight Wranglers out there. Come on.
Can't you see Tony just running with scissors, just running through the studio?
He'd be so grandfather that somebody would run with the scissors and he'd stop him. No running with the scissors. Not in here. No running. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I love this.
Off into a whole nother. I'm sorry. I'm just seeing like those big scissors you cut the ribbons with it. Like when you open a business, I can just see Tony with those scissors.
Safety, but because it's Tony, they have to be safety scissors, and he bragged rounded tops. No one's getting hurt here.
Yeah. I'm blaming this all on the God now. All right, so from there, we have a trio championship match with well, let me just read who's in the match here. That is so because it may take a minute for everybody to remember them, but it's Darius Martin, Action Andretti, and Lee Johnson, which I hadn't seen Lee in a while, and he did look good in this. But he's going against the House of Black, Buddy Murphy, Big Brody, and Malachi. And what I thought was funny in this match, it's how many other tag teams or trios can say that 2 out of the 3 people have their wives making extremely good money in another wrestling organization, or not their wives, their girlfriends. But they're still doing good. I'm not saying anything bad. Just a little different. But Julia Hart was banned from ringside in this match, so. A little something different. So I tell you what, let's start it off with the Godna. What do you think of the House of Black and actually the showing of some of these young guys?
The House of Black is an incredibly talented group, and they work together as a premier trios group because while everybody has a different strong suit, I see very much the Freebirds in this group. You've got the Terry Gordy in Brody Lee. I mean, he just, especially that high crossbody off the top rope, and it just hits him, and he just looks at him like, "Did you try that? Like, you didn't even phase me." You've got the showman in Malachi. That's your Michael P.S. Hayes, and then your worker Buddy Matthews he's Buddy Matthews is Buddy Roberts. Hello, Buddy, come on, it paints itself. However, the difference is, while Michael Hayes was incredibly charismatic and incredibly great with the stick and could work the crowd, he wasn't exactly Buddy Roberts in the ring, whereas Malachi is amazing. All these guys are amazing, and they have their own strong suit, and they gel so well together. This is another deal where I really want to see Buddy Matthews be on his own someday, but not for a while. I want this trio to stick together because their draw, their power, I see them as not only a trio, but I do see it as a miniature stable. I think that these guys are everything that the Dark Order was supposed to be, but the Dark Order was just so god-awful and doomed from the beginning that it could never be what this is on this level. Malachi Black having his own demonic mask. I love it. Of course, going in before that with what's his name again, Mav? What's Andretti's name? Could you throw that out for me?
Andrade El Idolo.
Yeah. So, talking about him with his skull mask, people forget that, he was La Sombra in Mexico for many years before he was picked up and turned into Andrade in NXT. He always wore a mask to the ring. For a while, he wore the mask on. This is a very much updated and newer version. And Andrade was known for having great classic crossover battles with New Japan. He was part of, I think, the Ingo Noberle's stable, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was part of one of the stables that clashed with Bullet Club, but he had knockdown bangers in Mexico versus New Japan with Shinsuke Nakamura once upon a time. People do not know that. And those are matches that were unbridled and not governed by WWE rules. So they're way better than anything you ever saw in NXT, so on and so forth. The point is that they are painting such a great picture with this, and they are making the matches look so intense. I'm curious to see who Andrade is going to find when they eventually have a trios match. Who's I think it should be the Lucha Brothers, and I think that would be just a phenom match because you have the horror aspect with Andrade's demonic side with the mask. You have Penta, who's rooted in evil, and then you've got a super crazy insane worker in Phoenix. So you've got everything that you need as a recipe for success. As long as it doesn't get too lucha or too flippy and they sell the way they do, you have your marquee people. It comes down to obviously Malachi and Andrade going one-on-one. I'd like to even see them stop, reach for their masks, put their masks on, and go head-to-head. Now, that's fantasy booking down the road, which is something I'm really good with, but let's talk about the match at hand, and I'll wrap it up very fast. While watching the talent on unfold, everything happening in the ring was pretty solid. Of course, Top Flight are still greenish and very indie with their flippy. Lee Johnson, the second they said Lee Johnson, all I could think is, if this was Star Trek, he's Ensign Jones, and we all know what's going to happen to Ensign Jones, okay? So, I just kind of thought, Spock and Bones are looking over like, good luck, kid. You're not coming back. And, and Once Scotty beams him down, we know that one less is coming back up. That's for everybody out there who's ever watched it. With Julia not being at ringside, I don't know why they put this stipulation in, and I understand that she can be a distraction, but they don't need a distraction for beating Top Flight and Lee Johnson. You don't. So you could have left her outside. I think it's just one of those things where they're trying to say that they're going to enforce more and more stipulations with them to try to even things out for the Andrade feud. So that's what's going on with that. Aside from that, though, minus some of the flippy, some of the minor botches. The botches were minor, and a couple of moves put on a little bit slower than they should because we're slipping out of moves and so on and so forth. This was still very solid, and it was a great showcase of what House of Black is and what they can do. A couple things that you guys might not have paid attention to is when they first came out. Malachi's wearing a mask, and Brody Lee's face is covered, but Buddy Matthews' face was not covered. He didn't have a mask. And then when they celebrated, you had an initial pose, but then Malachi and Brody stayed camera strong while Buddy turned around and saluted the crowd behind them. Could this be a tease? Could this be very, very early seeds? I don't know. And honestly, just to see Buddy go against Andrade, Buddy go against anybody, but Malachi or even Brody Lee, I know that all these guys could put on bangers. So I'm really curious to see where this goes, and I really hope that they could maybe build something for a trios match, trios versus Andrade, gaining some traction with a couple of people going into Wembley. And if not, if it's just going to be Malachi and Andrade going into Wembley, I want to see 20 minutes of just let them do what they do. And these are the seeds that we're planting right now for all my seedlings out there. Let's water it and let's watch it grow. Mav, what do you got to add on this? Mark, any closing statements on this match? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Oh, go, Mav.
All right. So one of the notes that I really have left at this point, because Gardner, you hit almost all of them. I feel like WWE really screwed up with letting House of Black members go that they did. They really let Malachi Black go due to budget cuts and everything. Same thing with Buddy Murphy at the time. That was a horrible decision, in my opinion. There were so many others, like The Miz, that they really could have just let go, and they would have had so many better performances after. I think that there was a springboard moonsault DDT that I saw that had happened. I believe it was Martin who hit it. That was impressive to me, a little bit indie and flippy, but you know what? That's not something you see every day, and that's kind of what draws me into some of the indie stuff is when it's not too often, but there's something to pick out and say, wow, that was cool. I haven't seen that before. And I have to say, Action Andretti, he is becoming my favorite rising star at this point. Yeah, he's a little bit green right now, but he is showing a lot of potential. And I think in a few years, he could be beyond the mid-card contender. I really feel like he can be something, and I really enjoy watching him. Mark, what do you think?
Well, you got to say, I agree with you, and Mavin, and you got to say that if Jericho is going to give you the rub that he gave him, Action, by beating him, that shows how much Jericho thinks, because he's got the turn down power. If he doesn't want to lose a match, or if he doesn't want to, and I know it's in his best interest to push everyone, but you don't have to lose the match, and he did. So that just shows what they think of Andrade coming up. And man, we got a couple more promos, but the one I did kind of like here is these were kind of interesting. You got Powerhouse Hobbs, you got QT trying to apologize, throwing out some Razor Ramon gifts out there. And then after that, you had Christian Cage with his own kid, supposedly. And that was just so good to me. I'm sorry. I don't want anyone to think bad about me, but I loved it. I really loved it. I don't know. I better stop before I bury myself. Somebody help me.
No, you keep going. No, you keep going. If we go down, we all go down together. So All right, I'm going to jump in real quick. So Hobbs, first of all, QT's offering him to be drippings with machismo, yo, and Hobbs doesn't want it. I'm a big fan of Hobbs. I honestly think that he is going to be a world champion in AEW sooner or later, and I just think that every time he goes out there, he improves, and he's one of the few who's very into listening to the vets and very into listening to the coaches and all the producers and trying to improve himself. And so Hobbs has unlimited, untapped potential. I think he's just going to get better and better as long as he doesn't go the Rusev route where they tell you kick, punch, body slam, be a WWE brick, and be boring. And he isn't. That's the thing. He isn't. His promo skills are always getting better. He kept it short and sweet so he wouldn't stammer over things or look like he's searching for words. It worked out for him. So, and Shivani didn't get dissed. So Shivani's happy because at least he had one more, positive interview. But did you notice QT kept offering him a win, not a match? Kept saying the biggest win. You can have the biggest win. That's kind of strange that he said it like that. So I thought that this is obviously not over. And I don't know who's going to come out of his monster faction that's going to go against Hobbs, because everybody's coming out of it while they're his students really don't have a name for themselves, and no one's going to go over Hobbs, especially if he gets a match in Wembley. It's just not going to happen. Some unknown is just not going to be beating Hobbs. Now, unless he recruits somebody who's of the stature or a marquee player, then we have something different. And then, of course, we get a faux commercial break, and we bleed into the delusional Christian Cage with Luchasaurus and the daughter. And I don't even believe he said his daughter's name. That's indicator one. He doesn't even care about the kid. Okay, so it's just like, yeah, he's going real heel here. But it's the fact that as rude and more rude as he gets, did you pay attention to Shivani's face? It looked like he sucked on a lemon. Like Shivani was feeling empathy for the kid, and he was like making this face like all sad, like, oh, like it was so hilarious, just making this sad boy face. And then Christian Cage like, throw her out of the building. And of course Luchasaurus just stands there and takes it. But it's just so funny. He doesn't even say his daughter's name. Can I hold the belt? No. Did you win this? I mean, it's so perfect. It reminds me once when I was young. We went to somebody's house to we were moving furniture for my friend's father, who was an auctioneer. And there's a little kid there, and he had a Mr. Potato Head. And he picked up an eyeball, and he looked at me. He goes, "This goes to Tato Head." Well, in my world, you don't cut corners. That's Mr. Potato Head. And I just looked at this little kid, and I said, yeah, I bet it does. And I walked away. My friends all started laughing because, like, you really just don't have patience for anybody who's going to cut corners. I was like, I don't care if this kid's 5. That's Mr. Potato Head to you. Okay, sorry, as I'm burying myself here. So,
Bad, please.
All right, so on a non-Mr. Potato Head related review here. So Hobbs segment, I kind of want to consider this almost him going from sort of a heel to somewhat of a face. He's kind of turning away from QT Marshall and his whole faction, the whole management style that he does. And I kind of like that he wants to go more the babyface route. Him being a heel was cool, but if he can go back and forth that quick, that shows some range. I don't know anybody who could really do that besides, I believe, Roddy Piper before WCW went down. They kind of made him go back and forth a lot, I believe. Lucha and Luchasaurus and Christian Cage's segment. God, that was just, I don't know what it is about Christian Cage, man. He's got to be one of my favorite of the old timers that are still around at this point. It's so entertaining for me to watch. Just, did you win this title? As if he actually did anything for it besides maybe some manipulation in the match. But God, I just can't wait to see where this goes to when Luchasaurus and Christian Cage finally have a falling out or whatever happens next. I want to see these two have a match. I want to see where the story goes. I'd also be interested to see what would happen with Luchasaurus if he loses manager completely, because I don't think I've ever heard him on the mic, so I'm not sure how that would go. Is he just going to cut promos of him just pretending to roar all the time? I'm not sure how that would go. But anyways, so the next thing we had was a match between Jay White and Metallic. Mark, do you want to start this one?
I had it down as Metalink. It sounded like a bad bank in Des Moines, Iowa.
yeah.
But and I want to add one quick little point to Hobbs. I hope that they do build him up and he does get a chance and get a run at the championship. And it would be really cool that if nobody said that it was the first black champion, if they just said he was a champion, because he's that good. And I hate that some people put it out there. He is that good. He crosses over everything, and I hope the best for him. But as far as the debut of Metalink or Metaverse or whatever the guy's name was, and he's good. I've seen him before. I mean, he's good. He was not. At first, I wrote in Jabroni, and then after I watched, I realized I had seen him, and then I took good Jabroni and put it in there, and then I went no Jabroni, and then I just took Jabroni out. But Jay White is great, and man, I'm sorry, I've just become a big Juice fan. His voice is just, it's just, I love hearing him on the outside of the ring running around there like, yeah, man. It's the most annoying voice since maybe Macho Man. Of something with that. You can't believe that somebody can speak at that tone all the time, but he does. So, the match, though, good. The Guns, of course, they're going to ride this. I guess this is the build for the Guns. Put them with some guys that are like this, and then eventually, you're going to have the turn where the Guns are going to be going against Juice and Jay White on down the road. So it's a win-win all the way around, I think. And then, of course, I actually am a very, very big fan. I'm thinking about getting a T-shirt of the cardboard Jay White. Really, he's really on time. He always seems like his timing's perfect. Guns up. What did you think, Mav? Well, I'm sorry. Go.
Right.
Excuse me.
Oh, I take who was next here?
I believe. I think you handed off to Mav.
Okay. Well, Mav.
Okay. All right. So the beginning of the match, I have not seen this guy Metallic before, so I just predicted a squash. But the match itself, it had a good flow. After a few minutes, I realized this guy actually can move. This is not going to be just any old squash. The match was all right. I'll give it that. It was good. It's just, after seeing weeks of Jay White performing at the level that he has been, it's a little bit underwhelming to see almost. These tag team matches with FTR and whatnot, it's been mind blowing. And it's nothing against the guy, nothing against either side. It's just, you can't keep doing, amazing 5-star quality stuff forever. But some of the notes that I had being the outside moonsault, that looked very good from my eyes. I really enjoyed this match. It wasn't fantastic, but it was still a very good match. Gardner, what'd you think?
Well, I've been watching Jay White for years. First of all, you guys have seen Grand Metalik. You just didn't realize it because he was Grand Metalik in WWE. I think he might have been part of Lucha House Party, the people who got rid of Lars Sullivan. He was also part of the Cruiserweight Classic. I want to say he actually wrestled the finals against what was it? Maybe TJP. Yeah. So that's who he is. He's looking rather well fed these days. He's not quite in the shape he used to be. But hey, all you can eat buffet, go for it, bro. So I'm also a huge fan of Juice at ringside. He is evolving his character so much. From the CJ Parker days to even New Japan, where he was still doing the eco-friendly, but still, I'll rough you up in the ring kind of badass, to now who he is. He's just going insane with this character. He is seriously going insane, and I love it. The screaming when Jay White takes off his shirt and screams, "He's ripped! He's ripped!" And I'm like, first of all, I noticed Jay White is shrinking. Jay White looks like he's lost about 15, 20 pounds.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not the only one who notices this, that he's getting thinner. Not that he's in bad shape. He looks like he's maybe 190. I have a hard time believing he's tipping the scales over 200. And while he's still an excellent performer in the ring, just to see what they do and where they're going with everything, I'll tune in to watch them any week that I can. If I'm not at work, you better believe that I'm going to be viewing those two because it's just hilarious. And I think that with Jay White having the cardboard cutout, I see it as an idolization of Jay White, and that's the way Juice is acting. And because people forget that when Kenny Omega was the leader of Bullet Club, he lost his leader's rights to Jay White, who punked him out. That's what always happens with Bullet Club. And now that he's here, you notice they're keeping the two separated, and I see a payoff coming down the road, and perhaps a clash between, the old school Bullet White, or excuse me, the old like Jay White and the old school Bullet Club. Maybe having someone join the Bullet Club, so to speak, in the American version, and go against the elite of Kenny and and the Bucks. So there's a built-in storyline right there. I think that will be beautiful, but just Juice, the goofiness, the screaming, and what really made this match. Of course, it was decent, it was good, but the very end, when Juice gets on top of him and he was doing those goofy push-ups and shaking his head and yelling into both of his ears, that was just the cherry on a big old beautiful cake. And I can't wait to have a big fat slice of, because I'll tell you what, I got a sugar tooth, and it's all for Juice Robinson and Jay White, because they are performing at a top notch level, and then bringing that cardboard in, and then the guns coming in. This is very interesting. You add the guns, and you add and Juice Robinson, you have a 4-man team. The Guns are unofficially members of Bullet Club, so now you have Bullet Club going against Hangman Page and Kenny Omega and the Bucks. You have 4-on-4 action. Does nobody see this? Because I do. I sure as hell do. And I think that the standouts are definitely going to be Juice and his antics and Jay White. I think they're going to be the ones who carry that. So that's what I see going down the road. But love the match, even though there was no botches. It was, I don't want to say filler. It was just fun to watch, but you knew coming out the Grand Metalik, even though he's Metalik, excuse me, making his debut, he's not going over Jay White. He's just not. So I just want to see how competitive they would make it. And they made it fun. They made it entertaining. It wasn't a squash. It was fun to watch. There were good reversals, crisp reversals. Like we're talking about the moonsault to the outside. Very great match, solid, and not too indie, not too trampoline. So big endorsement on this match.
There you go. And yeah, Juice, gotta love him. But then we get, and everyone, I guess, I'm pretty sure knows JR's health problems he's been having. So to have him even show up to do some commentary shows the respect that he has for Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And I'm not even sure that he didn't set this up before his health went bad, and he still followed through. But I thought Ricky looked really good to be 170 years old, and I'm glad they outside the ring, and let him do it that way. He did kind of scare me on the fact that they made him walk back to the dressing room with no belt. I thought that was kind of cruel. But
Yeah.
before I go on anymore, please, Mav, you want to go ahead and start this off?
All right. So I noticed that the AEW crowd, it wasn't a huge pop for Ricky Steamboat, but it was, I want to say, kind of just a dull roar. And that kind of, I don't know, irked me a little bit. Like, man, you guys aren't going to go nuts for this guy. It's not, I know it's not CM Punk in his prime, but geez, man, I mean, it's Ricky Steamboat. The guy's a legend. So Starch versus Punk, I put next to this ... championship ? Just because where does this belt fit in? How does it orientate itself with the alignment of all these belts that AEW has? How does it align in this order? Is it considered a main event title? Is it considered a mid-card title? Is it considered like when I believe the guy's name was Moose from TNA brought out the old title that used to be from TNA after it became Impact, and they brought in a whole new World Heavyweight Championship, but he brought out the old one, was like, hey, I got this instead, I'm TNA champion, and everybody just kind of went with it for a little bit. So yeah, I'm just a little confused on where that title aligns compared to all the others at this point. The 2-ref system, it makes sense for Ricky Steamboat, and this way he's able to just watch from outside the ring. As soon as he sees anything going wrong, he can either just tap on the ref, tell him, hey, cut the count, something's going on, or whatever is needed to be done. I did love the taunt exchanges between CM Punk and Ricky Starks throughout. I really loved seeing CM Punk do the Hulk Hogan taunts and whatnot. That was entertaining for me to see. I haven't seen that in years. There's plenty of almost moments, it felt like, at the end where it just kept going exchange after exchange of, oh, looks like Punk's going to hit the GTS. Nope, Ricky's out of it. He's, setting him up for a powerbomb. Nope, he gets out of that as well. I also noticed during the match, they gave a shout out to Steve Mongo McMichael, who I guess is having some health problems. Very unfortunate. I hope he gets treatment and better as he goes. But yeah, I haven't heard that name in forever either, so it's kind of shocking just to hear it out of random in the middle of AEW. I got to say, they really do put some emphasis on these, I want to say Hall of Famers, just those guys from the 90s especially, and just keep the history there. Really enjoy that. I liked seeing Punk's crossbody reversed. That was an interesting twist to see. I have not seen a roll-up like that, if you really want to call it that. I like that they kept Steamboat honest. They weren't going to change the character, because I kind of felt like with pulling him in and they kept putting that emphasis on, oh yeah, he's never cheated in his life. He's always been the straight and narrow in this business. It kind of felt like they were building towards, oh, what if he does? And I'm glad they kept him just still keeping the same character, not changing up anything at this point in his life. I really enjoyed the fact of how the end happened. How do I put this? So Starks attacking Steamboat, I kind of saw it coming, but I was thinking it's going to go one of two ways. Either he's going to attack Steamboat, or somehow Steamboat is going to become his mentor and, teach him not to be the whole lie, cheat, and steal type. Or maybe, he becomes his mentor, and then over time he just betrays Steamboat again and then builds him some other feud. Then at the end, I absolutely just loved seeing CM Punk throw a chair at him. It seemed like so much raw emotion in that moment. It seemed real for a second. I really enjoyed that. Michael, what do you think, man?
Well, general observations is for every pound that Jay White is losing, CM Punk seems to be gaining. He's starting to look like the way he did when 10 years ago. He just needs to develop his musculature. But like when he first came back, I had a hard time believing he was over 200. Now I could comfortably say Punk looks like he runs about 220. If he gets back into the shape he was, say, in 2012, 2013, then he'll probably start wrestling the way he used to, and all the ring rust will be gone. So I noticed that he's gaining weight, starting to look like a real bona fide heavyweight again. I noticed that I thought the match was great, and this just solidifies that Starks is a made man. No matter what you talk about, the four pillars, he's the unofficial fifth pillar. And this just proves it. What I did notice that, unless I missed this, you notice he didn't bring out the Owen Hart belt this week.
Nope.
Anybody else notice that?
Yeah, but you rarely see them after maybe the first couple of shows ever mentioning it. It's almost like it's
like
they don't
an afterthought. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought, I figured he'd still be carrying it around just for gloating factor. I love when Starks gets angry and he lowers his jaw and does the psycho stare when he comes at people. I think that they're going to build another dimension to his character, kind of like when Kurt Angle went from Goofy Kurt to Psycho Kurt and was just unstoppable, and he was the one tapping out Steve Austin. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be that level, but I love the fact that they're adding another dimension to his character. That's perfect. Having a character that's just the same just becomes so stagnant after a while. And while you really love that character, without evolution and furthering and developing, you basically become a wrestling legend that never really got a full due, like Jericho always evolved, Kurt Angle evolved. There's certain people who just always stayed with the evolution. And then I hate to say it, the Hardys are the same Hardys they were from 1999, except their bodies are broken, but there's nothing that's changed. A little bit of face paint isn't a real evolution. So, I like that Ricky is starting it now. So that's really awesome. Of course, the match was won with the most important move in the world, the dreaded roll-up. And that was a slow count, I noticed. And I think that obviously Ricky Steamboat has lost a step over the years, so he couldn't slide in there and just count it as fast as it should have taken, which takes away all speculation that was a quick count, takes away all speculation that Punk really had to hold him there. That's the only thing that worked against Starks. But at this point, I really feel that Starks is above the mid card and right underneath the main event. And I think he's maintained that momentum for a long time until he's a bona fide main eventer. And I'm all for it because to me, like I said, if I could redo the pillars, Hobbs and Starks would have been in there instead of Jungle Boy and Sammy Guevara. The other things I noticed about this, it was good. You notice that Punk's um, knee strikes look a lot better now than they did a couple weeks ago. Like the camera angles are better. They're catching it. If he missed it, it looked good. He was selling great too. You notice when he was getting beat down, he was putting his guard up when he was going down, as opposed to acting like he was knocked out. It was a different dimension. Of course, the taunts, and even they teased Punk, kind of getting in Ricky Steamboat's face on the outside. And while they did that, they panned to the crowd. We could see Cash's mom with that smile on her face, and I could see that COK sign starting to come up again, just to cap off the night. But it was a great match, and to me, this is what developing a young talent who is going to be the future of the company is all about. You put him against a household marquee name that can go anywhere he wants and make money, and you make it a really good competitive match. And you have the limited interaction of the special guest attraction referee. Stay to just going by the rules, not acting hokey, not doing something silly. Of course, the only thing he did to really throw around his weight was pushing the feet off the ropes. But it wasn't like one of these deals where someone goes to cheat and in the old school, like the special guest referee would kick their hands or something like that. Instead, he just pushed it off. He stayed very non-committal, very, very much Swiss, so to speak, in the middle of things. And that kind of furthered the narrative of, yes, Ricky Steamboat is going to have probably more guest referee spots as the person who always calls it down the middle. And so everything in this match worked. The moving parts came together to build an engine that was perfectly lubricated to run at an optimum pace. So I liked it. And it also tells you that next week, because of Samoa Joe's filthy comments and everything else, that the trios title is not going to change hands. And obviously they're not going to put the real world champion and the tag champions under. So I fully anticipate next week a Samoa Joe interference that's going to botch everything. But when you have 6 incredibly talented wrestlers and a 7th as a variable, I'm looking forward to next week's main event. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sold on it. I'll be there watching. I don't have to work that night, and I figure that the 3 of us, maybe the 4 of us, will all be, reconvening and having a great time talking about what I think is going to be a match that's going to steal the night, that's going to be probably pay-per-view worthy. So that's the way I saw the show kind of end for the evening. And like you said, it's sad that Steamboat had to walk backstage with no belt on, but he's got fingers. He could just hold up those loops. And I'm sure Shivani was waiting back there to give him a big hug and say, hey, at least somebody else took a beating tonight. It wasn't just me.
That's it. And I'm sure it's not the last time he's walked without a belt. He may be a good guy in the ring, but there's stories. He's a good looking.
Yeah. I'm not going to comment there, but
we'll leave.
So go ahead, like, sir.
Gardner stories. We don't want to go into the Gardner stories. The young Gardner. When you were first, pitching your pitchfork out there, young man. So we never want to go there.
They don't want to know about those first few formulative years in Memphis when I met you. Maybe we got in a little trouble. Maybe we didn't. Maybe that's for an After Dark episode. But so where would you guys put this show overall tonight on a ABCDE kind of thing, or ABCDF?
I'm gonna say a B. Solid B.
I think at first I was leaning towards a C plus, but it leaped over C plus to a B minus to a B. I'm gonna give it a B also. And Mav?
Yeah, I'd give it a B as well. I mean, it wasn't over the top incredible, but you know what? It was good. It sufficed. The last match especially was very good. And yeah, that itself, when you end a show well, then that's really what does change the grade there. Start and end was great. So yeah, definitely a B.
My only afterthoughts is I hope Christian's daughter didn't have to wait too long outside to see her father and get a safe ride home. And I just hope that wherever he was on his couch, coated in Cheetos and probably a stale PBR, that Billy Gunn was scissoring back right there in spirit.
Oh gosh. Mav, you got any final thoughts on this?
Final thoughts on the show. It's interesting just to see the Acclaimed without Billy Gunn. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen next with them. They will be able to stand on their own in due time, but right now it's just strange to see them without him right now. He was such a staple in their little group there, and I kind of wish he was back there for one last match now with how emotional they got. Just saying that at the end, throw the scissors back at us from the couch. It's just so corny, so goofy, but that's just the Acclaimed for you. So yeah, but yeah, that's my final thoughts on it. What about you, Mark?
Well, yeah, y'all pretty much covered everything on that one. I think I'll just be putting, another layer on. So, well, all right, guys, I guess we can end this thing out of here and we can all go eat pizza. But except for Mav. Mav has to go to bed. But everybody else can still go and do something. But why don't we start it off with you, Mav? Let us know where we can get in touch with you. Any final, if you want to say hello or goodbye or something to somebody, we'll start it off with you.
All right. So I'll be honest, guys. It's been a while since I've really thought about this podcast stuff. This past week has just been crazy for me. But yeah, I'm just going to do a regular sign off this time. Do something nice for somebody out there, guys. Somebody's always going to need it. And I guess I'll pass it to the gardener. You guys can reach me at Maintenance Mav on Twitter. Hit me up. We can talk about wrestling or honestly whatever. I don't care. If you guys want to honestly be part of the show or have any ideas for it, send it our way. It's not going to hurt. We're not going to bite you. But yeah, pass it off to the gardener.
All right. Unlike Maverick, I will bite you, and I'll bite you deep and hard. And you're going to go and you're going to have to get shots. That's all I'm saying. With that being said, we've got a lot of things as far as Wrestle Magic goes, and we're working on a lot of different episodes. Maverick is going to be heavily involved in an upcoming episode with Rocky and myself. And then after that, Mr. Mark is going to be heavily involved with an episode with Rocky and myself. And also, everybody has heard of King Scully from the Mailbag, and he's going to be involved with an episode with myself, Rocky, and Maverick. So we've got a lot of irons in the fire. It's just all pacing, plus doing the weekly collision. You never know what combination of myself, Rocky, Mark, and Maverick you're going to get. But no matter what, you're always guaranteed to get a really good show and a really good time. And we love our listeners. And if there's any constructive criticism you want to give us, go ahead. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. You can reach me at 144Captain on Twitter. And I would also like to tell everybody that our next show with Justin Credible is going to be at the end of the month. And the forum is going to be Ask Justin. It's going to be wrestling based. I want everybody out there who's a listener who would like to ask Justin Credible a question to send it to my Twitter at 144Captain or to Rocky T. And or you could send it to Memphis Mark, who's going to be involved in that show also, and he's going to give you his Twitter information. Unfortunately, I don't have Rocky's Twitter handle memorized right at this point. Maverick, maybe if you could pull that up, we could throw that out for Rocky, so you can send him some questions also. Also, this was a very tough week as we lost Adrian Street. As a lot of people heard on the Monday Night Raw review, which Rocky was the guest star for, I started out the show with a eulogy. If you did not listen to it, I would encourage you to go back and listen to it, just because I tried to do it as tasteful as possible for a man that went out of his way to wish me happy birthdays, happy Easters, was very conversational with me, and was going to be on a show for us. And I know that his wife, Miss Linda, is probably going through a lot of grief and a lot of pain right now, and my thoughts and hope and everything else goes out to her, because she's a sweet human being, and to be by that man's side for as many years as she was, she's a saint. And rest easy, my friend. Once again, good night. And like I said, reach out for your questions for Justin Credible, and that'll be at the end of the month. And I'm going to hand this off to you, Mark, unless Maverick has found Rocky's Twitter handle.
The Silver Fox or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So I just pulled it up. It's at Rocky's Club 007.
Oh, boy,
yes.
Was I.
He is the Silver Fox, though. That's how we trade emails for our formats. And King Scully's going to learn about that. But Memphis Mark, you go ahead and close this show out, brother.
Well, all right, guys. You know how it is with me. It's of course the NXT review every week. I try to stop in as much as I can on Collision. It's Memphis Mark for you on Twitter. Y'all been hitting me up, and then some of y'all need to shut up. But I mean, no, I'm sorry. I'm just I'm just the hair clips. I never want to get advice on how I dress when I'm actually on the radio. So that's never good. But anyway, guys, it's been a great show. Enjoyed everybody. Miss Rocky this week. Hopefully he's back next week. But we're going to close her on out, and it's the same way every week. If you can, help them shelters out. Always spay and neuter. And this is Memphis Mark. And you know what? For everybody here, I'm out.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.